Again, this is the July 13th Lunch and Learn. Our host is Gloucester County Economic Development. So very glad to have them as one of our locality hosts. The entire Peninsula Home-Based Business Network is comprised of multiple localities here on the Virginia Peninsulas, York County, City of Williamsburg, James City County, the City of Hampton, Gloucester County, the City of Pocan, and City of Newport News, in addition to our local chambers of commerce in York County and also in Gloucester. So this is definitely a collaboration among a bunch of different groups, and we're pleased to be able to continue to bring this series to you. Today, we're talking about home-based businesses and online sales. Joey Pocan is an economic development specialist with the Small Business Administration. Joey is going to be our speaker today. So without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Joey, and you can take things from there. Thanks for being with us today, Joey.
It's definitely my pleasure, and thank you for having me. This is one of my favorite topics to cover with the Small Business Administration. I love home-based businesses. I've started a home-based businesses several throughout my life. Prior military, wherever I moved someplace, always had a little side hustle, if you will, or a little gig economy deal. Even today, as I actually have a small business today where I do jewelry making and blacksmithing. So I'm very familiar with the process and everything that needs to happen with kind of a home-based business. So today I'm kind of focused on some of that startup stuff today, because sometimes when we're starting a business and you get involved heavily into it, you tend to miss a few things here and there, and we're going to kind of focus on that and hopefully have you walk away with some tips to better assist you in your marketing so you can compete with all the other bigger businesses out there. I will do my best to keep my eyes on the chat as best I can. But if you have any questions, please put them in there. I promise we'll address everything at the end of the presentation as we go back through it. And you also have a Q&A section as well that you can utilize. So again, let me welcome everybody. This is a great step. When small businesses, home-based businesses come together as a community, it's always beneficial to everybody involved. So I'm super happy to see everybody here. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now, and we're just going to kind of go through some slides and kind of, okay. So now we have the slides up. So really, in the beginning, what we're talking about is those first steps, right? How do you create an online presence for a small home-based business? You know, the time of flyers, posters, and more traditional means of marketing are slowly fading away. And not to say that they always won't be necessary, but now we just have better means, right, to advertise our businesses. But still, the human connection still needs to be there. So a couple of things that I always tell people to do when you're starting a home-based business is, one, you got to start creating your tribe. And this is before you even launch the business. You know, telling friends, family, networks, clubs, organizations, you know, as business owners in a community, you know, I always feel that it is our responsibility to be part of the community in some way, shape, or form. So clubs and organizations, friends and families, you know, everybody should know what you're doing. This has a twofold effect to it. One, they're going to tell other people about it, right? Now we're starting to expand, right? Just our messaging alone outside of our zip code and everywhere else. And two, it allows you to have a better concept of your demographics as your business starts growing. You know, what kind of people are finding more interest as they hear about your business? Again, this is all pre-launch. Next, sharing links to social media, upcoming news, whatever the case may be. There is something fundamental, interesting about somebody in our communities, regardless of where they're at, that has an idea, talks about it, and then slowly watching it grow to that opening day, right? That's the personalized story to it that makes things interesting. Now, let's say you already, a couple of you, as I see in the chat, already launched small businesses, home-based businesses, and that's great. This is always stuff that can always be overlapped with whatever you're doing. So, you know, a social media page, upcoming events. Let's say you want to do some things on YouTube, Twitch, parlor, whatever the alternate sources are, depending on your growth and your demographics and where you want to be, people want to see that business owner now, especially on an online world. We're starting to see this kind of unique shift happen, if you will, where these small businesses, right, can compete with larger businesses now through different platforms, and they are. A good one would be Coffee Brand Coffee out of Wisconsin. They've done a tremendous job. Just a little, they use a drop ship method of coffee grounds and sending them out to people. In areas of literature and comic books and things along those lines, we're starting to see more people kind of drift away from the DC Marvel aspect of things and kind of go with these independent creators that are creating from the ground up. Here in our local area of Virginia, probably one of the more popular ones would be something like Delta Dogs. And then you get your more professional, your consultants, your lawyers. They're starting to do the same thing, building their online tribe to grow their business. At the end of the day, whoever you're telling these stories to as your business grows, they may not always be your customer. So the key there is, well, do they know your customer, or who could be your customer, or who would want to be your customer? So again, and this is where also that fine line, I sometimes have trouble with this. So I'm just going to kind of throw it out there as a piece of advice. There's a fine line between informing people how excited you are about your business and just outright bragging. Right? I'm a vivacious bragger. Former Army, it's just natural to me. But when you're telling your stories about your business, remember, you're not saying how you're the best. You're saying how they can give you a chance, if that makes any sense. Social media posts should be at a minimum weekly, right? And remember, this is one of those things, right? The bare minimum gets you a minimum result, right? So if weekly is the minimum, right? But then again, we don't want to over inundate somebody's feed with consistencies every hour, right? Think of it on a weekly basis. This tends to help. And always, always ask to share, like, comment, post, whatever the question may be. Always look for that return on the investment. Return on investment at this point is if you're doing a video, and if you've seen any YouTube channel or anything on Facebook, you always hear the same thing. Hey, don't forget to like and subscribe, hit that bell for notifications for the next upcoming video. It's so ingrained at that point, it just becomes the script. But it is important to remind people that the expectation of watching this, right, the trade-off of this free content that you're giving to somebody is to just help me spread the word of this great product, this great service that I want to provide to people. Moving on. Next, so we kind of started telling people about what we're doing. So now we need to start setting up goals. I'm a vivacious goal setter too. I love goals, and I love low-hanging fruit, easy obtainable stuff so I can get fundamentals in line. So just set up some numbers. How many clients do you want to talk to a day? How many items do you want to sell on launch day? Contracts, how many are you looking at to actually go after in the next 6 months? How many meetings do you want to take with resource partners, like our several resource partners through the SBA and some of the local ones here through your business network as well? And have deadlines. Deadlines is what keeps us honest, right? Deadlines keep the emotion out of it, right? They're like, oh, I could have done better if I had more time. No, you had the time that you set and accomplished the goals in that time. This way, it's a real test to see how much you can actually get done over a period of time. And meeting goals and deadlines does give the young entrepreneur, those beginning steps, a sense of confidence to present their product in a timely manner. Keep goals reasonable. Goals can always be increased, but you never want to decrease a goal, right? If we didn't make it the first time, that's okay. We got another period coming up where we can try it again, and you start from zero and you try again. This is what helps propel a business to move forward. Now, what if something happens and I don't meet my goals and it's out of my control? Well, this is often in many circles what we call a pivot. Something didn't work, so now we need to pivot an idea, a concept, into another direction. So let's say you wanted to launch through Twitch, right? Twitch is a popular streaming service now, and it's just not working. You're not getting it, right? Mostly because you're trying to sell, and I believe I saw some people that are in the farming communities, you're trying to sell farming or teach people about farming or sharing your expertise in farming on Twitch, which is mostly a gaming platform. You may want to pivot at that point over to something like YouTube, Facebook, Instagram Shorts, something along those lines where it has a broader reach. So again, goal setting, but the understanding of the goal setting and the schedule setting is to find out what we actually need to do to reach the people that we need to reach in a more digital world. All right, step 3. Now we've kind of started setting everything up. Now we need to get the business license, insurance, bank account, and all this other stuff done. It's okay to play in the beginning, right? I believe I saw, and I could be wrong, I believe there was an accountant in the room. I think they'll probably agree with this. Testing a market is totally fine as long as you keep your receipts and everything. When you go to launch everything at tax time, as long as it's all in order, it's fine. So, business license is at your local office, county or city, depending on where you live. Definitely need insurance. Little trick to insurance. Some insurance companies will allow you to have a rider, depending on what you're doing, of course, along with your home loan as well. Or you can just do a separate bundle for it. Make sure you understand the laws in your area as far as, hosting a home-based business. So a good example of this would be, if you decide if you're going to have customers coming to your house for something, right? Some cities and localities do have special rules for that kind of thing. So you may want to be up to speed on that. Offices like your economic development office, along with Virginia.gov and state websites, will generally have this information for you. Now we want to start, our bank account. Now, here's where things get weird. I work for the Small Business Administration. I know people are always, the number one question we get, how do I get a loan from you guys and how do I get a grant for you guys? All right. Unfortunately, with a home-based business, loans are very limited to very specific things, and grants almost never happen with a home-based business. I understand there's a lot of charitable causes out there, but it's just too much risk on that point. Also, in most grants, I'm fortunate to say, that grant becomes what your business is doing now. So all that great stuff that you kind of imagined in the beginning there kind of falls by the wayside because the requirements of a grant will generally take over what mostly the business is trying to do. However, there are specialized credit cards and even lines of credit through various lenders throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia to assist you with this. Next, you're going to be needing that famous employer identification number, EIN. Go to virginia.org for that. And you can also go to the IRS website as well. And then we need to start thinking about that legal entity. As it is said that the majority of businesses that do start off around that 80 percentile mark generally do business as or get a DBA. Understand this is still a legal entity. It doesn't mean that you're out there just doing business as yourself. There is a legal entity to it. And so even some protections under the Commonwealth of Virginia if filed as so. After that, you have LLC, S corporations, C corporations. Probably something that's slowly starting to creep up is that benefit corporation. If you want the benefits like a 50-50 split between an LLC and a nonprofit, you can kind of split the difference there. A good example of this would be, Founders Brewery. Not to bring up beer, but it is a good example. Half of their profits actually go to the American Legion, nonprofit organization, and they're still able to maintain a profit for their own personal business as well. So this may be an interesting factor for you that are trying to do some sort of social good, innovation, technology, things that would generally require a grant is how I generally look at it. Oh, my mouse is sliding on me. Here we go. All right, so we got our business license, we got our insurance, we have a bank, may even have a small line of credit card. What starts happening next? Oh, we have our legal entity, the most important thing. What starts happening now? We've set up our online tribe. Now it's push, promote, repeat. Now we're working. At the end of the day, while we're chasing all this other stuff down, now the work starts. And as the entrepreneur, the boss of the business, this falls heavily on you to promote and push. We launch the business, social media videos come out, blogs, whichever you prefer. I generally recommend for a home-based business 2 to 3 platforms that you're using. So, and these are easy to set up to where if you post at one, you can post at the other ones automatically. I'll give you a trick for that at the end. but the promotion push, so you're looking at something socially conscious like Facebook, Instagram, your more social type areas. A professional one always helps, like LinkedIn or something along those lines. So you're going to want a couple of these. And the reason why we're doing this is one's going to gain more traction than the others, right? Depending on the market that you're dealing with. So whereas your Twitter is going to be your main feed, Instagram and Facebook, right, humanize a business, whereas Twitter populates a business. Same thing with YouTube and things like that. So, weekly, once a week is the minimum, twice a week is about the average, 3 times a week, you're a little bit more, as long as you have something to say to the people, which you should. You're excited about your business. Next, manage, operate, and collect, right? Now that we have our formula down, now that we've perfected, we see growth both in sales and on our media sites, and things start moving. Now it's time to kind of switch gears a little bit and start that management of it. Maybe get a little help with the social media push. You have the formula. Formula can be taught. We put the information out there, and then we start looking at ways to improve our reach and our content. Maybe more entertaining content. Maybe faster delivery of services. Whereas you were using UPS, now we can start looking at FedEx, UPS, whatever the case may be, right? Once the business is launched and we start seeing growth, right? Now we start figuring out what's the fastest way to get product to people and for people to understand that we exist at the same time. And then, of course, collect, profits, put them back into the business or whatever the case may be. So here comes the trick. This seems like a lot of work, and it is to some cases, but there are some tips and tricks to kind of help you manage all this. One of them is a simple website. It's a free resource. It's called Linktree. It's one URL that has all your URLs under it. If you don't know what your web address is, if you will. So you can literally put all of your social media on there. If you have an online store, you can put that link on there. This way you're dumping, instead of doing constant links, one thing, and then you can see the growth from that. They'll go to the website, they can check out your content, they can sign up for subscriptions, whatever the case may be. There's even a link you can put in there for email listings as well, which is valuable to any entrepreneur. Next, kind of think of your team, right? You got your professional team, and then you have your tribe. Your professional team, in this case, you being the entrepreneur out there on their own, we generally call this a bail team. So banker, right? Who at the bank are you dealing with when it comes to your small business, right? The famous accountant who makes sure that, all your paperwork's in order for all your taxes and P&Ls and everything else. Insurance agent, and of course, a lawyer. Now, a lawyer may seem a little highbrow for a home-based business to some degree, depending on what you're doing. If you want to set up like a legal entity and you don't want to go through a lawyer, there's plenty of websites out there to do it. However, understand what you're signing and understand the risk and implications of the particular legal entity that you are signing up for, and how it is affected by the state that you're in. So my assumption is that everybody here is in Virginia to some degree, and LegalZoom and several other Legal Up and several other sites. Virginia is pretty plain Jane when it comes to setting up a legal entity. Next, right, you have a tribe of people that you do a product or service for. You will also need to set up suggested, you don't have to, but I suggested having another little tribe off to the side, a place where the entrepreneur can go talk about entrepreneurial stuff, right? You have your customers that need the products or service, and that's a whole thing in itself. But having a network of people, of mentors, other small business owners that you can collaborate with, even your competitors, right, can be part of this network. I often say competitor does not mean enemy, right? You can split out the demographic, you can split out anything that the zones that are covered. I always see this in like major cities, right? So we take the big ideas and we make them localized in this case. I always see like a ton of restaurants within a block, right? And they're all competing for the same amount of money for the people that are coming in there to eat in this particular block in a major city. And from the outskirts, we look at this and we're like, oh, they're competing against each other. They're all fishing for. At the end of the day, the draw is the block. And yes, they are competitors, but I assure you, if you come into one, you complain about the service or anything else along those lines, they're like, well, hey, maybe you should check out blah, his competitor at that point. So although competition is fine and it's great, right? But we come about this with more sportsmanlike conduct. If I'm not the person to provide you the service or product, my competitor over here, they do. Maybe you should talk to them and vice versa. And it's always just good as you're kind of pigeonholing your life now as an entrepreneur to kind of just have a community-based organization that you can relate to, that you can go to. One, it helps the business to let people know that the small business, home-based business exists in this zip code or in this area, and your expertise can go beyond just a small business at that point and actually helping the community and charitable endeavors at that point. I'm one of probably the few business counselors or economic development specialists with the SBA that kind of pushes you should join something. As a community-based business, you need to be part of the community, and that's what really grows it. And I can literally put in the chat, what is the business that's the most charitable in your area, or who's the business owner that joins, all the organizations that does the thing, right, in the community. And I promise you, almost everybody would have a name of a business or a name of a person or something along those lines. And there's a reason why this formula works. And I highly suggest it for anybody. Some other resources out there, it wouldn't be an SBA slide deck if I didn't push an SBA something to you. So, but the one that I probably like the most is the SBA Learning Center. I do find it invaluable. I do not mean for this to take the place of any mentor or any other guidance. Most of the stuff is generalized. If your business needs to grow and a business plan needs to be adapted to the business to make it more mainstream, there's a class for it. You take the information from that, you and your mentor, you and your network talk about it and grow from there. Same thing with legal requirements, financing options, and things along those lines. These are very short-based video classes that are specially geared to keep the interest for about the average YouTuber watch, which is about 10 minutes. And it's broken out and pigeonholed for you to kind of grow from. Again, I don't keep a whole lot of slides. So again, my name is Joey Pocan. I'm with the Richmond District Office. You can check out our website at sba.gov. Loads of resources in there for you. And if you're having trouble finding a community resource or a mentor or anything along those lines, we're happy to help. Please email us as our phones kind of get switched around from person to person. Our email is richmond.va@sba.gov. So, and as a parting gift, before we get to the questions, I want to make sure I leave you with a video. This is something that I kind of created off scale for people that can go someplace to get something quick, fast, and easy information-wise. And I want to be sure I can share the sound. We'll share it now. And it's just a fun little video, and it should kind of help with market research simplified, because I've been telling you to grow your tribe, so what do we need to do that? And this is just kind of a little fun thing for everybody, but there's some good points in it. So I'll go ahead and share that now. Okay, so I hoped that helped. I'll just go through the chat real quick and see if we have any questions. We have everybody thinking. Again, thank you all for attending today. I really do appreciate it. I hope some of this is helpful for you. As we go through, hello everyone. Leave for free tax reviews. Thank you for coming in. As we go through the session, feel free to ask questions. Definitely. Don't forget to submit your questions to Joey. We'll check that out. So yeah, Linktree. The link for Linktree, surprisingly, as redundant as that sounded. I can't find you on Facebook. I am personally not on Facebook. Can you clarify who are trying to find on Facebook? Thanks. Oh, okay. I see Joey. Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm personally not on Facebook. I have other social media sites that I utilize. Can you put an email in the chat, please? Yes, I can do that. I'll do that here shortly. And enjoy the presentation. Thank you. Not a problem. So my email, and this is going to sound very confusing, but just work with me on it, is actually william.pocan@sba.gov. And I'll put it in here now. You can always email me. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. And also links and anything along those lines, I'm happy to help with. The reason why it's william.pocan, my official government name is William Joseph Pocan. So that's, but I go by Joey.
So Joey, let me ask a question, because I know some other people may want to ask some questions. Do you have any particular thoughts on specific web-based platforms that people should look at using when they're starting to get into setting up like an online store, or any advice as to when is the point at which they should start to look at doing that type of thing?
So if you're going to be selling product through a website, the question is going to be at that point, are you drop shipping, or are you creating something and you just want to host a website where you can take transactions? So we'll cover both of these real quick. This is relatively simple. Drop shipping, very simple. You have a design and you want to put it on something, a hat, clothing, shirts, whatever the case may be, but you don't want to do any of the messy shipping work or anything like that. Tons of sites that can do that out there. Or if you're a business and you want to put that extra product out there, that branding awareness, so you like want to do t-shirts that people can buy or something along those lines, drop shipping is a great way to do it. There's, the last I counted, hundreds of sites that can do it. So what you want to do is you want to find the one that best fits your branding at that point. You know, the feel and the texture of you. Are you more city versus more rural? You know, all these sites are kind of split up that way. And then you have generic ones like Spring Tea. That's a very popular one. My recommendation would be, again, always the entrepreneur should do the homework at night. Look up drop shipping in a Google, and what it's going to happen is top 10 list of best drop shippers out there. Check where this information is coming from. It's a legitimate source, just like you would a college paper. Cite your work, if you will, and look through there and make sure that they have the design and capabilities that you feel better in understanding. You may not always like the split in price, right? Average t-shirt now from these drop shippers is generally between $25 and $27, with you keeping about $4 on every shirt that you sell. So again, we back up to what we said at the beginning, setting up that social media to begin with, right? Getting that tribe together. So when you launch that product, they're excited enough to jump on it instead of just hoping that you get some passive buyer on that site to actually deal with it. On the other hand, if you want to make the product yourself and ship it from home, setting up a simple website is relatively easy nowadays, with a lot of platforms that can help you. One of probably the more popular ones out there, and I want to be clear, I'm not recommending any specific one. Always do your homework. But one of the more popular ones out there right now is Wix. Wix is probably leading it right now as far as simple clip, paste, post, a quick website, have a transaction, and of course there's a fee attached to anything. Remember, anything online that you're associated with, if it's running through somebody else's platform, there's going to be a fee. There's going to be a split in the difference. So again, price accordingly to make sure you're getting the profits that best suit your business at that point.
Great, thanks for that. Let me ask you one other question. You've clearly been working with a lot of different businesses over, a certain amount of time. I'm sure you've seen a lot of different things. For people that are joining us today and they're looking at really growing their home-based business, what is like the number one or the number two biggest pitfalls that you have seen come up repeatedly as you work with emerging businesses that people here will want to make sure that they're aware of and do their best to avoid?
So it was kind of I kind of harped on it in the presentation. So usually when I sit down with a business and I find out that it's a home-based business, they're completely reliant on word of mouth. And unfortunately, after COVID, we've changed our mentalities at this point as far as working online. I mean, normally I would not be allowed to do a virtual event, right? It was always in person. And now it's like, oh, okay, we can do virtual. So everything is being shifted to this more virtual event. But the problem with this becomes, and this is often joked about, my blacksmithing private business with jewelry, there is a streaming service that's attached to it as well, where I kind of make the things in front of people. So the joke being now is home-based businesses, everything's content. Everything is content that can be posted online and shipped. How do you make the thing that you do, right? And then the question becomes, well, if I teach them how to do it, why would they buy from me? And this is absolutely just a fallacy. Don't fall for that fallacy. They're watching you do it because they're just consuming content at that point. The chances are the skill of a good video never shows you everything you need to do to make something. So again, that online presence is going to be key at this point now. This is why I say set this up before you actually launch the business to see what the traction is. Let people know that the business, this is how, hey, today I got my legal entity. I'll be doing business as blank, that people want to be online, people want to be virtual, but they still want some sort of connection. And the only way they do that is by just updating people what you're doing to create this business.
No, that's great. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it. I don't see any other last questions in the chat or in the Q&A, but Joey, we certainly want to thank you for joining us today, sharing some of your expertise. Thanks to Amanda and Gloucester County for serving as the host. I'm serving as Amanda's voice today because she woke up with no voice. So that's why I'm doing more talking than I normally would. But I also want to take a quick minute and just remind everybody that we have a couple things coming up. You want to make sure that you take a look and come back in August. August 10th is our next Lunch and Learn event, which is going to be determining your worth, how to structure your prices. And that's going to be hosted by the city of Williamsburg, and Rachel Frazier will be our guest for that. If you are already registered for this, you register once for the whole series, but if you've not registered and sort of got this link through a friend, feel free to go ahead and sign up at peninsulahbb.com, and you can share that information with others as well. And also coming soon, we have our 2022 Home-Based Business Conference. So you want to go ahead and mark your calendar for Friday, October the 7th at the Denby Community Center. in Newport News. More information is going to be available about that event also at peninsulahbb.com. So you want to go ahead and check out that website.